Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP, and this video is going to be me just speculating aloud. I've just watched a video about by Dans les yeux d'April, who is a French autistic creator, and she made a video about basically intimacy for autistic people. But she wasn't talking about like intimacy in relationships. She was talking more of like the lack of boundary. And by boundary, I'm meaning the lack of boundary in self and others in autistic people. But I think that this is actually something that is very relevant to me as an INFP as well. And I'm kind of relating back to a kind of parody video by vondelpete that he made a while ago. I don't remember what the title was, but it was something like, do INFPs have a wish to dominate? Which is based on C.S. Joseph, who has a kind of strange view of INFPs as like people who want to dominate. So I wouldn't say that in general I'm a person who wishes to dominate, okay? But I would say that I have lived my life as an autistic, introverted little kid, always being intruded on by everybody else, wishing that I was invisible all the time, not wanting to take space, not wanting to bother anybody, just being very, very shy, barely talking. When I was in kindergarten, my teachers thought that I did not know how to speak French. Like, it was to that point, you know? And with time, I've become a chatterbox. But like, most of my childhood and my teenage years, and most of the time, I don't say much. But in certain circumstances, when I'm meeting friends or I'm engaged in a topic that I'm interested in, or I'm on YouTube, I suddenly pour my whole spirit out and share a bunch of stuff, and it's kind of like oversharing. I show myself vulnerable on here, and I go and I intrude on others. I start talking and talking and talking, and I am kind of dominating the conversation. And it's kind of a way, I guess that it's a way for me to go against what I have always been. You know, I've always been invisible, nothing, no boundaries, just being intruded on just through people and sensory wise, and everything goes through my thin skin. And so now I do the opposite, and I say all these things, you know? And I think it is somehow a kind of way to feel that I have power over my own life and situation by discussing things. And I talk about very intimate things, and this should make me feel vulnerable and like I'm giving, but that I am also becoming weaker through this, you know? But that's not how I'm feeling. I'm actually feeling stronger through this. Because it is kind of like I am taking space. By talking, I'm putting myself in the center. This channel is me in the center. And I have control over the comments. I have control over what I publish. And I get to talk as long as I want without it having any consequences on my real life. And so yeah, in a way, I, as an INFP, wish to dominate, because here I am, the presenter on my show, you know, you're watching the Rabbit Raven show, and there's this thing of like, yeah, 5-year-old me would be really proud of me doing this, you know? My 5-year-old me would be like, yeah, go you know? Like, you have a, well, I mean, 5-year-old me did not know about the existence of YouTube, so, but, you know, I was so scared of taking any space. It was like I was a ghost. Like if somebody threw a book at me or a rock at me, it would just pass through me almost, you know? Like I was just a wisp of smoke and like nothing there. And I was extremely sensitive to everything, because just like a paper cut would like kill me, you know? And this is a sort of theater, this is a sort of me a performance of like, I'm it's not like I'm growing a thick skin, or is that but I am actually existing as a person, you know, and actually living and breathing and talking and being a human being rather than just being a ghost. And I always remember this lyric by Florence and the Machine, one of my favorite singers. She says, "You're flesh and blood. You don't need to be a ghost here amongst the living." And yeah, because I've always felt like a ghost among the living. And now this is me living. I'm doing it digitally, weirdly, in a very theoretical manner, because I'm talking about theoretical things. But it is still physical. Ideas can become physical by speaking them out, you know? And if they stay in my head, they won't be physical. And I think that that is kind of a difference between INFPs compared to some other intuitives, is that we have that FITE kind of dichotomy and NE. So the TE is kind of what makes us want to make things concrete. And so, and the NE is like a bunch of ideas that we can't really grasp. And if they stay in my head, I can start to not feel real, you know? So I need to transport the words into my mouth and say it out loud. And I need to do it in front of an audience, because doing it to myself is just not as real. So in order to feel real, I need to talk to people, you know? And it doesn't need to be real people, it can be people on the screen, because in the end, I'm not a censor, I am an intuitive. So like, it doesn't matter the actual physicality of it in real life, but it has to have a physicality even in this abstract sense. I can't really explain it, but it's just like, I need to exteriorize things about me, because I cannot keep all this inside myself, because then I will just disappear. So in order to live, in order to like actually have a foot on the ground, I need to do all this verbiage out into the space that I'm creating, you know? And I think that this is what kids do with playing imaginary games, you know? They play it out together with others, and you know, they create an imaginary world, and they do the physical stuff that they are imagining, and learning how to be in the world and exist through this imaginary play. So I think that that's kind of what I'm doing, but like, I guess the adult version, which is talking and kind of playing. It's not really an act, because I am me. I'm not like pretending to be another person, but it's still a performance, you know? And I think it's hard for people to wrap their head around this, because I think that most people are censors and don't understand that certain things that are immaterial can have such importance. And that's, I think, why INFPs are really interested in language, in the art of language, the game of language. You know, it's a whole art, science, whatever you want to call it, but it is something that we like to play with, and it makes us feel alive, and it actually is as real as, you know, a dream, unless it is verbalized in some way. That's why writing is also a physical form of expression. So that's why you have INFPs doing a lot of writing often, or painting, or just a way for the inside to come out. I think that certain other intuitive types, like an INFJ or an INTJ or 9TP, ENTP, I think they're not as much about, like, either they're types that aren't really anchored in the world and wants to be in the world physically, such as NI dominance, often I think are really in their heads, really cerebral, and then they will do physical things in the world. While NE users, I think, will be more in their heads and want to play with ideas as the way to be physical. And I think I think that NE users in general maybe might relate more to this, but especially ENFPs and INFPs. And I think INFPs are the ones that will relate to this the most, because they're introvert, and so I think that they're used to feeling invisible, and as you grow, you start realizing, I think, your needs more. And so for me, a need is being extremely verbose, and it is kind of me intruding on somebody else. I try to be respectful of, you know, their cues, their boundaries of like what is okay to say and how much is okay to say. However, I think that friends of INFPs need to understand that this is a need that the INFP might have, to actually say a bunch of stuff, you know. I just went on a leadership course, and there were certain kinds of things and discussions that led to good interactions, and certain ones that led to bad interactions. And the things that lead to bad interactions are like attacking the other person or gossip or that kind of thing. And things that lead to good conversations is like showing that you're listening by repeating what the other person has said, or taking up like, oh, good points, building on what you said, blah blah blah. These are kind of good ways to have a conversation, at least in the professional sense. But one of the things that was in the negative, so in the negatives you have things that lead to a lot of like different wavelengths, like a lot of just trash that you need to sort through. So one of those things was talking out loud, speaking out loud, which is rather like saying what you think just unfiltered, or talking to yourself. And I was like, oh shoot, I'm always talking to myself. But apparently this is something that we're also taught, because this course for leadership was for any kind of leader. But we were doctors. So actually for doctors, it was for, we doctors seemed to see this as a good thing, to speak to yourself, because that can help you come to a solution quicker. And so the course leaders were like, wonder why you guys are all saying that this is positive. And that's because we are taught this in medical school, that it's actually good to speak things out loud so that other people can pitch in and help you out. But obviously there are certain situations where that is not the best thing to do. But that is kind of what I'm doing, is that I am pitching certain things, I'm saying certain things, and people are welcome to come in and out of that kind of conversation. I'm not meaning for it to be a monologue. I'm meaning for it to be a conversation that starts and stops, but it also, this medium, YouTube, allows me to just speak and speak and speak, and then receive the dialogue separately. So I kind of enjoy that, because I don't need to break the flow of what I'm saying in order for somebody else to jump in. Because that is something that kind of bothers me with certain chat conversations, or just conversations in real life in general, is that you have to do this back and forth that isn't always really how it sometimes breaks the flow. But yeah, so I really like when there's flow, and that is why I also jump off of other videos that I've seen, or I reference tons of stuff, because it makes me feel connected to the world at large, like my ideas aren't just mine, they're like everybody else's, and I can be inspired by anyone, and anybody can be inspired by me, and we can build this web of ideas. And that is the any way of seeing ideas. And maybe we can get to like some real NI insights by converging all of these into one. And I think that is what I find so exciting about life. That's one of my most interesting things about life, is having discussions that interest me, and it leads to me feeling like I'm a real person in this world, just enjoying my life. And it's sad that a lot of people don't really understand that's the way that I do things, the way that I express things, because this is something that I need to do. And if I don't get to do it, then I get miserable, I get sad. So yeah, I'm really happy for this YouTube channel. I'm happy that I get the opportunity to do this. Like, I don't know, like, how I would have been if I had been born in the Middle Ages. I guess that I would have to be a I'd have to be like a king's fool or something in order to have this opportunity to speak in this way without, you know, I don't think I'd be funny enough to be a king's fool, but it would be kind of interesting experience. And there's also the fact that the king's fool is often the most honest person in the room, and is not really interested in social norms, and is allowed to do things that other people aren't allowed to do, but is also seen often as like kind of a mystical kind of being, which I think that INFPs are kind of like that, you know? They're kind of perceived like that. But we are real humans. It's just that we have an interesting perspective on the world and an interesting way of living. So I don't really know what the point I was trying to say, but that's kind of how my videos go. So I don't know what I'll title this video. We will see. So yeah, I hope that I got somebody inspired to write back what they thought about this, because they're probably more articulate than I am. But yeah, have a great day, everybody.